how do you, does that give you any closure, or what does that do for you to see that? Because I can imagine it could be very conflicting.
Yeah, because I don't champion putting young black men in jail,
Right.
jail period. That ain't but
when you get to be the age that we at and you get to become as successful as we are, you have to start doing some things that matter for the future.
What if the biggest secret in hip-hop was never buried? What if the truth about Tupac Shakur is only now starting to surface, nearly 30 years later? Because tonight, a courtroom bombshell involving Sean Diddy Combs has triggered something no one expected. Whispers about the FBI, rumors about new targets, and questions about names that were never supposed to come back into the story.
If you look at it, they committed fraud. They committed bankruptcy fraud. I didn't lose my company by doing anything wrong.
Let's separate fact from speculation. Here's what is confirmed. Sean Diddy Combs was convicted in 2025 and is currently serving a federal sentence. His legal team has already filed an appeal, arguing constitutional issues and sentencing concerns. At the same time, multiple reports suggest he may be cooperating with investigators. But here's where things get complicated. There is no official confirmation from the FBI that Snoop Dogg has been arrested or charged in connection to any case.
This is a 5.5-hour flight. Don't nobody say one word to me. Not one word. Just having conversations or doing all kinds of things, saying nothing to me.
To understand this moment, you have to go back to 1996, the night Tupac Shakur was shot in Las Vegas, a case that has remained unsolved for decades. Until recently, authorities reopened the investigation and eventually charged Dwayne Keefe D. Davis. But here's the problem. Even now, the case is built largely on statements that have changed over time.
Now, that may sound crazy, but I'm going to read you something from their brief. Listen to this. They say, freak-offs and hotel nights were highly choreographed sexual performances involving the use of costumes, role play, and staged lighting, which were filmed so Combs and his girlfriend could watch this amateur pornography later.
According to resurfaced documents and interviews, there were past allegations that Sean Diddy Combs may have had knowledge of events surrounding Tupac. Let's be clear, he has never been charged in the case. Authorities have publicly denied him as a suspect, but his name appears multiple times in historical records and testimonies. So now the question becomes, if he knows nothing, why does his name keep coming back?
So we made the business decision to be cool with each other, because I don't hate him, and he don't hate.
This is where things take a turn, because the story doesn't stop with Diddy. It expands to two major figures, Snoop Dogg and Suge Knight, both deeply connected to the West Coast era and the Death Row Records timeline. Suge Knight, who was in the car the night Tupac was shot, has made multiple claims over the years, some consistent, many controversial. Meanwhile, Snoop Dogg has denied involvement and publicly distanced himself from those narratives. But recent statements have raised eyebrows.
That Diddy could be eating dinner at his home tonight, a free man. And that's because an appeals court is now hearing the review of the trial in which Diddy was convicted of violating the Mann Act.
Now, let's address the biggest claim. The FBI is investigating Snoop Dogg. Here's the truth. There is no official FBI statement confirming this, but insider chatter and legal speculation suggest federal authorities are still reviewing information related to the Tupac case. And if new testimony is being evaluated, it could involve multiple figures from that era. That does not mean guilt, but it does mean the case may not be as closed as people thought.
I'm quite sure I am death row. Suge Knight is death row. So I'm quite sure before it's said and done, all eyes on me and Machiavelli out of Fox have definitely to come back to me.
So why would Diddy's name resurface now? One theory, leverage. If he provides information, real or alleged, It could impact his legal situation, but that creates a dangerous question. Is he revealing truth or saying what needs to be said to survive? Because in cases like this, information becomes currency, and freedom comes at a price.
4 years, 2 months in prison.
Wow.
He served a year. He gets some time. He gets 15% credit, so he'd be at 14-ish.
2.5 years.
So, and then he gets another 15% in the remaining.
Yeah.
He's out in 2 years.
Yeah. Should have stuck with the original guess.
I know.
Yeah. Why
I
did
know.
So here's where things stand. The Tupac case, this still evolving Diddy, is fighting for his future. Snoop Dogg remains uncharged and denies involvement, and the FBI? Silent. But silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means something could be building. And if the truth really is coming out, it might change hip-hop history forever.
Diddy. Or didn't. Well, if he didn't, he's got a lot to explain. Well, apparently what Diddy's done now, which is a very interesting thing, is he's on the offensive of sorts. That's right, Sean Diddy Combs has initiated a $100 million defamation lawsuit.
What do you think? Is this the beginning of the truth? Or just another layer of mystery? Comment below and subscribe, because we're following every update on this story.
He just laid on the floor for like 30 minutes. His mama came in there and cleaned me up. His mama came in there and cleaned me up.
Microphone Snoop Dogg, arrest rumors after Diddy bombshell. What's real? What's not? The internet erupted after explosive claims suggested that Snoop Dogg had been arrested by the FBI following a shocking courtroom twist involving Sean Diddy Combs, with viral headlines pushing a dramatic narrative that Diddy allegedly declared, "I know who killed Tupac." But when you strip away the noise and look at verifiable facts, a very different and far more complex story emerges, one rooted in decades of rivalry, unresolved investigations, and resurfacing allegations tied to the 1996 murder of Tupac Shakur. First and most importantly, there is no confirmed evidence or official statement from federal authorities that Snoop Dogg has been arrested or charged in connection with any investigation. The FBI has not publicly linked him to any active case, and credible reporting continues to describe him as uninvolved and cooperative when referenced historically. What is real, however, is that Diddy remains under intense legal pressure following his 2025 conviction, serving a federal sentence while simultaneously pursuing an appeal, and multiple reports indicate he may be exploring cooperation strategies with investigators, something that has fueled speculation about whether he possesses insider knowledge related to long-standing mysteries in the hip-hop world. This is where the narrative becomes volatile. Diddy's name has appeared repeatedly in historical discussions surrounding Tupac's killing, particularly in past statements by Dwayne "Keefe D. Davis, the only individual ever charged in connection with the crime, though law enforcement agencies have consistently stated that Diddy himself was never officially considered a suspect. At the same time, the broader context cannot be ignored. This case is deeply intertwined with the infamous East Coast versus West Coast rivalry of the 1990s, where figures like Snoop Dogg and Suge Knight were central to the West Coast scene, particularly through Death Row Records, the label that defined an era of hip-hop dominance and conflict. Over the years, Suge Knight, currently serving a long prison sentence, has made numerous claims about the circumstances surrounding Tupac's death, some consistent, others widely disputed, while Snoop Dogg has publicly denied any involvement and distanced himself from conspiracy narratives, often emphasizing peace and legacy over revisiting past tensions. The resurfacing of these names now appears to be less about new confirmed evidence and more about the collision of three powerful forces: Diddy's ongoing legal battle and potential cooperation, renewed public interest in the Tupac case following recent legal developments, and the viral amplification of unverified claims across social media platforms. Adding another layer of complexity, legal analysts point out that in high-stakes situations like Diddy's, any suggestion of cooperation, real or rumored, can trigger waves of speculation about who might be implicated next, regardless of whether those implications are grounded in fact or strategy. Meanwhile, the Tupac case itself remains one of the most scrutinized unsolved crimes in entertainment history, with evolving testimonies, conflicting accounts, and a lack of definitive physical evidence continuing to cloud the truth nearly 3 decades later. So while the headline of Snoop Dogg being arrested by the FBI captures attention, the reality is far more nuanced. There is no verified arrest, no confirmed federal action against him, and no official indication that the narrative being pushed online reflects the current state of the investigation. What has remained undeniable is that the intersection of Diddy's legal situation, the unresolved legacy of Tupac's death, and the enduring influence of figures like Snoop Dogg and Suge Knight ensures that any new claim, no matter how unverified, has the power to reignite global attention, reshape public perception, and keep one of hip-hop's darkest chapters alive in the spotlight.
If he gets 14 months, if the defense gets what they want, he'd essentially get out October 3rd because
he's been in
for a
13
year,
months.
And you get 15% credit for time served. So he'd basically be out after the sentence, and then he'd be on supervised release.
Right.
A judge says here the data shows a wide variety of sentences. Weighing all the relevant factors, the court determines that the sentence is 50 months of incarceration.
50.
4 years.
4 years.
5-0.
4 years, 2 months.
2 months.
Yep. Wow. 50 months.
Do that 4 years, 2 months.